Hello and welcome to the first episode of Any Relation to the Crisps. This is a podcast based around my experiences as a student running a business as part of my degree. So my name is Owen Seabrook and I run a Leeds-based video and multimedia production agency where I've worked for a really interesting, eclectic number of clients and variety of clients, from tech and digital to big national suppliers to startups. And I started this business initially as an attempt to gain experience faster. So I started the business in 2015, just before I came to university, and initially it was a way of getting hands-on experience and getting more opportunities faster than other students might receive them, because typically if you're a business and you want to outsource a video and get someone else to make something for you, you're not going to go to a student straight away. There are definitely clients who will do that, but you are going to look for businesses. So I wanted to position myself more strategically, more professionally, get trusted with bigger projects that I could put my skills to, see them to completion, and as well as learn all the creative stuff like the practical skills, videography, writing, photography, that sort of thing. I also was able to learn things like business management and how to make contacts and how to work in the professional world and talk professionally with professional people, that sort of thing, which is experience that, again, you can find at university, but you have to look for. So basically, the initial motivation for starting Seabrook Media was to essentially get ahead of the curve. So this podcast is a recounting of my experiences, and to give you an idea, I am sat in front of my laptop. I've got my audio equipment on audio software on one side of the screen, and on the other side of the screen I've got the document that is the foundation of this this podcast. So you might hear a bit of scrolling with the mouse and things like that. It's not the most professional setup, but this is about my past experience, so I'm not too worried about production quality. So let's go into this document. So I had to provide this document as evidence for the completion of my year in enterprise. So many universities offer a study abroad option or a work in industry option, which usually takes place between your second and third year, and means that you're spending 12 months either studying in a different uni, somewhere else in the world, or working in a professional environment. There is a lesser known option at Leeds University called the Year in Enterprise. And the Year in Enterprise is similar to a year in industry, but instead of going to work for an employer, you run your own business. So after 2 years of running Seabrook Media, in that time I got very close with the startup support department at the University of Leeds, and applied to go onto the Year in Enterprise and got a place, and spent the next 12 months working full-time on Seabrook Media. Still as a student, still registered in the university, technically in the eyes of the module that the Year in Enterprise is. I was now a student at the business school for 1 year from my usual course, which was a communications course in the School of Media and Communications on a course called Film, Photography and Media. So this is more of an introductory episode. Basically, this document covers, at the minute, about 25 different experiences, and they're pretty broad, pretty varied, that I underwent in my year in enterprise. So this covers things like pitching in South Korea, failing a £25,000 pitch, as in getting rejected, the client didn't go for it, having a flagship product that failed, then going on to talk about things like pitching ideas to clients, filming in Moscow, managing to land a pretty big job with a large Leeds-based brand and providing a 2-week campaign around that. It's really quite broad, so it's introspective on my business development professionally, but also on my personal development and what I did to grow myself and improve myself and fight against the very present assumption that someone who is a student can't be seen in a professional light. So I did a lot of things like reading books and going to networking events and practicing my communication skills and all stuff that I'm going to go into in each of these episodes until the book's complete. But also, this book only needed to be a certain length. I say book, it was a university assignment, but my plan, because I spent the year being creative and remember the whole reason Seabrook Media was made was to develop my creative abilities. I thought it would be a great opportunity to go a bit over and above with my assignment, so I actually laid out my book, my assignment, which I also called Any Relation to the Crisps. I laid it out as a book, and then I printed it and handed it in as a book rather than just a Word document. So it was something that I was really proud of. So this episode is more of a introspective, just to sort of, I'm not going to go into any specific experiences yet. It's more talking about where I was at the beginning of my year in enterprise and in the application process and what I was thinking about at this time. And I'm going to try and not give any spoilers. So let's jump straight in. So first of all, let's talk about the podcast name, Any Relation to the Crisps. So this is a sentence I heard very frequently working in Leeds, which is not too far from the home of Seabrook Crisps. Obviously, my last name is Seabrook, so this is something I heard a lot, and I thought that quote was a pretty good way of summing up the connections and the people I spoke to in the 12 months of my year in enterprise. So Any Relation to the Crisps is a little nod to what people used to ask me over and over again in just these little interactions. So in my 2 years of university before I applied for the year in enterprise, my experience initially was very, very little. I'd say probably slightly more than the average media student. I've been editing for about 10 or 11 years now. Started sort of making little internet videos and screen recorder edits and things of me on my computer when I was 11 or 12, and was very keen around creating and producing, and this is an interest that I've always had, what individual elements construct an experience for a viewer. A little fact about me, I'm huge on things like comedy and entertainment and it's from a technical perspective that I am a fan of this, because how is it that Jim Carrey, with the combination of lights and a stage and or cameras and a setting and a context, how is it that all of these little elements, Jim Carrey's a hero of mine, but how is it that he makes me laugh and I'm just watching him on a screen? What things have gone on there to create that? And this has been the foundation of my interest, to be honest. Like, a lot of my my skills developed from editing, and editing was a really good way of learning how to construct an experience, because you are physically manifesting the things that the audience sees. So after a few years of just hobbyist editing, I started to play around with cameras and slowly began to learn how to film and shoot and storyboard and things like that to help my edit and to get better footage to edit with. From there, I got into photography. From there, I started looking at video effects and After Effects to make my motion graphics on my edits better and things like that. So it all sort of bled out from editing, and post-production is for me the place where I am. I'd say it's the most accurate representation of my way of thinking, without getting too psychological about it. But I resonate quite well with the workflows and the thought processes behind a lot of the logic behind post-production. So back to late sort of mid 2015, I was second year college. I had already started picking up film related hobbies, camera work, effects, that sort of thing. Photography would come a bit later. But I was we had to submit a coursework element for my media, and I made something that was really ambitious and very silly and very tongue-in-cheek and very much my sense of humour, and it's a lot of the ideas of things being funny because they are done poorly, but to do something poorly you have to do them with an element of sarcasm and things like that. So references would be things like The Mighty Boosh or Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. We had to make a music video, so I took a very dramatic song, wrote a very dramatic story to it, that was quite sarcastic and sardonic, and the idea was it was a bin man, or a rubbish collector, and two delinquents, and they're painted out to be like superheroes and supervillains, and this all boils up to the two young ruffians attempting to litter, at which point the bin man appears, and a big superhero battle ensues, and there's fireballs and explosions and mind beams and all sorts of things like that. But it's all very sarcastic and done in a way that looks tacky on purpose. So I just created this, and my college, I was quite a present figure in the media department in my college. Like my teachers knew me. I sort of had my own computer that people knew. I felt quite bad because there was a teacher that joined in my second year, and I would always sit on this one computer, and there would be some times where I'd walk into the computer suite and she'd be on the computer and she'd go, "Oh, sorry, do you want me to move?" And I was like, "No, it's fine, you can use it." it's more your computer than it is mine. So I received an award towards the end of my second year of university, and it was like the media department award, and a speaker at the university was a member of the BBC, but he also was a musician and things like that. So we got speaking. I was introduced to him because I was the media student, and he asked me to send him some stuff, and I sent him this video, and he said, "I love it," and probably he was being nice about that, but he said he loved it, and asked if I would like to make him a music video for his musical endeavours. He'd written a song. He was like a guitarist, and he did a bit of singing, and he said, "Do you want to write a song? Make a music video for me?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Can I create a logo for this?" And my thinking behind creating a logo was that I assumed, because I'd done bits and bobs of helping people out on shoots and things, and I was confident enough to accept that job, and I thought I will probably go on to do odds and ends more, and this, I can make money off this. He'd offered me like a small sum. He'd offered me £250, £50 of which was expenses, so it was a £200 and then £50 for expenses. pay for this video, so I thought maybe I can make this my part-time job when I get to uni. So I asked him if I can make a logo, because a logo is more professional than just a student's name, and I didn't want it to just drift off into unrecognition. I wanted there to be a place, like a Facebook page or something, that was a collection of the projects I had worked on. So I designed Seabrook Media's first logo. That project went really well. I didn't profit from it. That £250 went straight into a camera that cost more than £250. It was a DSLR Canon 600D kit lens, really basic. And watching that video back now just makes me die inside, because I'm just working on a whole different level, like just echelons above. But you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? So this was how Seabrook Media started, and I came to uni and very boldly was telling my tutors and things that I had started a business, when in reality I hadn't even registered. I had a Facebook page and a Twitter account. But Seabrook Media was, it wouldn't be a lie to say that we had a portfolio. It was a very shallow portfolio, but we had a portfolio nonetheless. So I had no business acumen. I've never sat a business qualification at all whatsoever. I didn't know anything. Like, me at the time, I couldn't even articulate what it was that I didn't know. I really had no knowledge when it came to business. I was doing a lot of stuff just how I assumed I should do it. By extension of that, I was doing a lot of stuff incorrectly. And this is where I got to speak to Spark. And Spark are the university startup support scheme, where they help students and graduates to a certain point to run the businesses and teach them the ways of business, and give them opportunities and make them connections and involve them in things that will develop them as entrepreneurs. So Spark really whipped me into shape, and this was a long process over 2 years, but I think I've sort of fully realised myself as an entrepreneur around the start of the year in enterprise, because there's just so much learning to be done, and I went through this transition of my first 2 years of uni, which was rapid, but then, at the same time, I recognise, even at the point I'm at now, there is still so much to learn. And I'm at a point now where I'm really drawing a salary from the business. I'm pitching, like I said earlier, I can pitch 5-figure amounts pretty comfortably, but there is still so much left to learn. And far be it from me to ever claim that I've learned everything there is to know. I'm very much a student mentally. I always try and look for opportunities to learn and develop and grow. So at the time of getting to meet Spark, which was in January of 2016, so second semester of my first year at uni, I was like the whelp. I was the runt of the litter, and they helped me with sort of learn the ropes and things like that. So there were a few experiences in this time. First of all, the first thing that's probably prevalent to say is that I didn't have a business plan. In fact, Seabrook Media initially was way too ambitious, because it was just me, and that was my selling point. So my first meeting with Spark was a business plan pitch for a competition, and I remember being up there and saying that the benefit of Seabrook Media is that it is all me, and clients work directly with me. There aren't too many cooks. I will learn it all, and I will do it all. And looking back, that was wrong. That was a bad idea. That's not the attitude you should have when it comes to building a business. You want to create opportunities for other people to be involved. The more people you have, the more you can do, the more ambitious you can be with your projects, the happier your clients can be. It's just a case of managing properly. So that was the first thing. And this ranged from not only video but things like composition of soundtracks for the films we make and things like that. Like really overly ambitious stuff. And I am musical to an extent, but I am no composer. I'm definitely not a composer. Grade 5 piano doesn't give me the right to say that I can compose the track to a corporate film. So that pitch, I actually got through that pitch successfully and received a business plan grant, third prize in the competition, business plan competition 2016. And that was useful because it allowed me to get some business cards and like a little travel tripod and some other bits that, most importantly, my 50mm lens, which is still in action today, my nifty 50. That lens is amazing. But it also built me this initial connection with Spark and the team there, and put me in contact with their advisors. So they have a service where you can go and meet business advisors and speak to them and get their insight and ideas. And this has been very useful because I was able to go and say things like, I know nothing about accounting. What do I need to know? What is self-employed? Am I self-employed? These were the questions that I had at the time. And I couldn't, because you don't know what you don't know. So I didn't know whether I was self-employed or not, or whether there was some other thing that I was that I didn't know about. Things like, what am I allowed to put on a contract? What terms am I allowed to enforce? What contracts and legal things do I need? It was a real, I mean, I can be pretty harsh on myself in terms of my growth and my development and the things that I'm like learning and the progress that I've done. And I'm like, why am I not a millionaire yet? I should be, this stuff. And then sometimes I'd put myself in front of the hype motivation stuff a bit too much and start kicking myself because I'm not working 19-hour days and then sleeping 5 hours and getting up and doing it again and stuff like that. But when I look back, I do think I am proud of myself for being so cocky as to take on jobs with the amount of knowledge that I had, because I really had no knowledge. Another thing I was doing was pricing projects hourly for my editing. And when I say hourly, I mean minimum wage. And I would split hers over charging people 50 quid. When I put through like a £400 job and it got accepted, I was like, I'm rich. I am the richest man. I've worked for £100 jobs before. And this has been another thing that I've had to learn how to do. And there are definitely stories in this book that I'm going to turn into podcasts in the next, coming episodes that will talk about this in depth. But I was doing a lot of stuff poorly. And on one of my £100 jobs, I had a bit of a revelation, because the guy I was working with, he said, oh, would you mind like animating the logo? And then if possible, like at the start of the video, and if possible, could you send me that animation just separately? And I was like, I would have done that anyway. Because I was always putting freebies in for my clients, like that sort of thing, like little logo animations or tidying up the logos for them if they were quite rudimentary. And I realised, like, maybe there's a benefit to the freebies. Maybe freebies are the things that I should be focusing on. And this was the foundation of my transition into the service, which I mentioned earlier as my flagship, or it was at the time, social media packages. The idea being, I could just charge a flat rate and build 3 months of engaging, varied content that I could bleed out over a client's social media platforms for months and months and months. Or, well, 3 months. Month on month on month. 3-month blocks or more if they requested it and were willing to pay for it. And it could consist of photography, videography. I'd picked up photography by this point. My introduction to photography was through a lecture, or a series of lectures that I had in my first semester that sort of opened my eyes and really got me into photography. So I was offering photography at this point. But I could animate, I could do graphics, I could do all this stuff, and create social media campaigns for businesses, shorter form videos, and that could be my breadwinner. Because at the time as well, bear in mind, I was looking at jobs in terms of multiples of hundreds. Like, I was thinking about £300 jobs. Oh, this £300 job and that I only need 5 more videos to make 1,500 quid. My first 2 years of Seabrook Media combined, I turned over £5,000. So this is the level I was working at, not massive numbers. And I say this with total honesty because this podcast is about growth and it's about experience, and I've come on a long way since then. But this isn't a boasting thing. This is hopefully people can listen to this to get an insight into what it's like to start a business, to run a business alongside uni. And I'd love, if there were people listening who felt inspired to go and do something similar. So, social media packages. And this was around January of 2016-17. So, halfway through second year now. And applications for the Year in Enterprise are coming up. And I was already interested in the Year in Enterprise anyway. It was not very well known, and it isn't very well known. Only 4 people out of the whole second year of the University of Leeds, this is thousands of kids, only 4 people do it each year. And a lot of people have never heard of it. You can go through your entire uni career and never hear about it. So I had happened across it because my tutor in first year, when I went to him and I said, started this business, is there anything I can do to sort of progress and to develop and get through things faster and learn things faster? He mentioned the Year in Enterprise, and this was what sort of piqued my interest. And then I got involved with Spark and I met the team directly and this sort of thing. So I had this idea of the social media package, and initially I thought, if every single one costs £500, I'm already, doing above and beyond what my videos cost. And thankfully, around this time, I had another pitch with Spark for something called the Enterprise Scholarship. And part of the panel's feedback in that was when they said, what are your prices for videos? And I said, between like 200 and 300. One of the ladies on the panel said, that is ridiculously cheap. And I'm so glad she said that, because that's been a memory that has scarred me. Costing things was a source of anxiety for me in the future. Like in the past, like I said, I used to split hers over putting £50 on a job. I used to charge minimum wage for hourly editing. Absolutely the wrong thing to be doing. And I'll go on to talk about pricing in a different episode, but I have needed many pushes to get out of my comfort zone with charging. But it's not that I'm charging too much and need to get used to charging to what I perceive as too much. It's that I was charging too little and was afraid of charging adequately. So later I would change this £500 speculative figure to £1,500, and this is what I applied to Spark's Year in Enterprise with. So I said, I'm wanting to run Seabrook Media, but we want to transition into social media campaigns as the primary service. Videography and photography and all that stuff can fall behind and be a secondary thing that we will offer, but ideally will phase out. So we're getting now onto goals for the Year in Enterprise, and we're about half an hour in, so this is pretty well timed. Let me just scan the document to see if I've missed anything out with the origin story. No, looks like it's all here. So the goals of the Year in Enterprise basically were that I wanted to, at the very least, turn over £1,800, and that would be a full price social media package sale a month to a small B2C enterprise like a restaurant or a cinema or anywhere that you go for leisure and lifestyle and experience sort of things. One full sale of £1,500 per month for the roughly 15 months of the year in enterprise, as in the end of the second year, which was around May, June, July, to the start of my final fourth year of university, which is October. So the months that span there, it's about 15. I wanted to make £1,500 each month through social media packages. So what I call my realistic scenario when it came to my predictions and projections was £18,000. My other focuses were and this is straight off of the business plan, so I'm reading straight off the business plan here that I applied to start with 18 months ago. So Seabrook Media began in May 2015 and until January 2017 has provided freelance photography and videography services, which has proved difficult to turn a decent profit. Our new social media packages will make Seabrook Media a more recognised service that is capable of generating serious income. Our business focuses are to break away from our past reputation as a freelance media producer, so change people's impressions of what I do. Successfully launched social media packages to Leeds and the surrounding area in June 2017, so there was a few months of preparation, setting up the pipeline for these social media packages. Break our minimum turnover target of £18,000 between June 2017-18, which covers all costs needed to continue producing packages, as well as a comfortable living salary. And also there's profit and there's business profit there as well. So £1,500 I worked out to break down as 20-40-40, and that is cost, profit and wage. So for each package, £300 would be expenses, things like scheduling fees for schedule services, bringing on second cameras, or outsourcing things. £600 would go straight to the business, and £600 would pay me month to month. Our philosophy is to aid the journey of passionate customers-oriented businesses who strive to give their customers an experience rather than simply to provide services. As such, our focuses as a service provider are to assist the growth of small B2C enterprises, so this is our client base that we want to move into, provide an outstanding and lasting level of customer service. So customer service is always something that I've prided myself on and made a priority. My name is literally the business, so I need to make sure that my customers are happy. And maintain and improve an untouchable production service standard and be considered the expert in social media management and content production. So, get known, basically. There were a lot of problems with this service, and I will go on to cover why and the changes that happened in my year in enterprise and where I found myself by the end of it. It was a very exciting year, a lot of big wins, a lot of important learning experiences that a lot of people will not have for a considerable amount of time that I managed to pack into the space of 12 months. It's changed the way I think, the way I act, the way I speak, the way I work. And hopefully this episode, and anyone that's listening who does have a bit of business acumen and a bit of business knowledge might be sitting thinking, I'm not sure about this guy. His business plan doesn't seem all there. This is the thing. This is the exact point. So I want to be totally honest and open in this podcast series so that people can understand what the thinking is like for a person who's 2 years into the first business with no business experience. And I believe, and hopefully you'll agree, from the way that I talk and the way that I reflect on my problems and obstacles and the way I reacted to things, I think that I'm now in a position where I can hold my own with seasoned business people. And I feel like I have done that. I'm haggling now. I can pick up the phone and go, "Where's my money?" I don't do that. But I can chase invoices. I can haggle. I can argue my own value. I can price things with ambition. I can manage a team. I can pursue projects, that sort of thing. So there's been a real growth for me. And one thing, again, I'm wanting to avoid spoiling, but I think if there's one thing that would be important for me to take away from this year, and this is something that will be a part of each of these episodes, because this document, which I am going to make available somehow, I haven't decided exactly how yet, it might be like an ebook or something, but this document has the visual thing. It's got each experience is a story, which is about 500 words, a little timeline that shows when in the year it happened, points of growth, and these are based off of specific criteria. I think there's 19 different points of growth. So these are things like team working, leadership, social sensitivity, flexibility, research skills. There's evidence in there, and then there's also takeaways, and these are 3 lessons from each story that I've gone to apply in the future, or have changed my way of thinking, or when I reminisce about that story, it's these takeaways that I think about. So just to do one takeaway for this year out for this episode, what I have learnt is to respect myself as a professional. And this might be a hard pill to swallow, or a hard fact to hear for a student, or someone who hasn't been in business themselves, a first timer to business, whether you're a student or just a young person. It's really hard to give yourself a fair amount of respect. When I was beginning the year in enterprise, I spent a lot of time. No, not the year in enterprise. Sorry, when I was beginning as Seabrook Media in 2015, 2016, I spent a lot of time, like I say, stressing over charging people. Very frequently, I would make accommodations for people on price because I thought that was decent, or that the obligation should be that I should change my prices if asked. Or things like, I'd feel morally bad for costing a job to people or charging people. And this has changed over time, and my year in enterprise, there were a lot of experiences that put my, say, self-esteem to the test, and stick-to-itiveness and things like that. And I think what's been a really important thing for me to learn is that I have done enough to consider myself and be considered, and expect the consideration from my clients to be a professional. And I'm sure there's some people who listen to this and raise their eyebrows and go, "You're joking." But no, I am a professional. I work professionally, and I do professional work. And it's taken a long time, of grafting and working on very, very low budget jobs, and doing a lot of bad business practices in terms of, things that aren't very profitable, or things that aren't cost effective or time effective, or, conducive to a healthy lifestyle. Things like overworking and taking on more than I can chew and things like that. It's taken a long time for me to be able to say, well, if you want me to work until 4 a.m. because you want to see your video by the end of this week, then you have to pay me. And this was things that I would just overlook. and not do. And I've brought this up around my professional connections who aren't students and who are in industry and running their own businesses, and they say that is a lesson that you have to learn. You have to say there comes a point where it isn't just Owen Seabrook, the freelancer, Owen Seabrook, the person who does the work. And I've come to see myself now as not Owen Seabrook, but Seabrook Media as the business, as the, if you want this on a fast turnaround, we have to respond accordingly. If you want this to include things that haven't been discussed in the scope of the contract, I have to respond accordingly. Not Owen Seabrook, the nervous guy who wants to please and goes, oh, yeah, I can do another shoot for you and edit something new. There was a lot of stuff I was doing wrong. I say nervous, I'm not particularly nervous, but there were a few times, especially in the first year or so, where I would just say yeah to things because it was easier. And that's a big lesson to learn. You don't do that. You don't do that. Get paid for your time. Takeaway 2. So that's sort of the introduction, really, to any relation to the crisps. So the stuff that I've wanted to cover here hopefully gives you an understanding of who I am, what my business is about, what I was thinking just before I started my year in enterprise, and also the goals that I had. So things like £18,000 turnover target, change people's impressions of me as a freelancer, work for B2C clients, have my customer service responded to, regarded highly, that sort of thing. And also, most importantly, successful launch of the social media packages. So I think that's pretty much it. That leaves us in pretty good stead to start with our next episode, which is the Leeds to New York Leadership Program, which took place in June 2017 and got some pretty exciting antics in Manhattan. So this podcast is going to be found on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and YouTube. Those are the main platforms I want to be present on. The YouTube account that I'm going to put it onto is called Venture Mountain. That's just my sort of creative facet. It's not Seabrook Media related. It is, as the name suggests, it's the place where all of my little projects will sort of be accumulated. It's like the umbrella for all of these little projects. So all my other podcasts are going to end up on Venture Mountain as well. But just search for any relation to the crisps on any of those podcasts and you'll be able to access them pretty easily. Also, I'm on Twitter at I am crisps. This is a public facing Twitter account that I've recently started just to be like my professional account, but not Seabrook Media. Again, I wanted an account because I have a private Twitter that is more just me entertaining my sillier side and my stupid jokes and things that come to me. But that's not really public facing. That's not really for it's not it's not helping anyone basically. It's not putting out anything of value. It's more just me and like the same 5 mates always favoriting each other's tweets. So at I am crisps, Owen Seabrook is the username, and that's where I'll be tweeting things out as well. And that's pretty much it. That's everything. So I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction piece. Generally, these podcasts are going to be around, this series in particular is going to be around 30 minutes. This one's gone a bit over, but that's fine. It's very free form anyway. So please feel free to get in touch. I'm available at owen@seabrook.media or on Twitter. There's a contact form on my website as well, but it just takes you to that email. It sends it through to that email anyway. So that is everything. Would love to hear your feedback, and I will see you in New York for the next episode.